So the next area that we are going to edit is the business name area or the heading text area. We are going to hover over this big text, which is the heading text, and we are going to click the gearbox. Right here is where you're going to want to put your business name or something that very boldly describes your business. It doesn't have to be your business name, but if you're going to put something there, make sure that it is something that is eye-catching and that is interesting. But I am going to put in a fake business name. I am literally going to call it a fake business. And I am going to go ahead, and you see that this is a heading 1 in this text box. I'm going to head over to the design tab, and I'm going to change out the font selection and the color selection to match the branding palette that you may have purchased from me. If not, then you're going to put the colors in there that you choose, that you came up with. So you're going to, for this particular area, remember that it was heading text. We are going to scroll to the heading text area, and we're going to drop it down. And this is a H1 text. Most of the areas that I have in my layouts are H1, so you don't really have to navigate over, but you'll see that it does change when you click on those other tabs. It's just a different, it's basically like a subheading. So we're going to make sure we're in the H1. And we are going to change out the heading font, which is currently set to Allura. So go ahead and pull up that branding palette and template that you purchased from me. And we are going to change that heading text to this font called Nothing You Could Do. And so we're going to change that Allura out by clicking on it. And you'll see it's really easy to find the font by typing it in the search box. So we're going to type in nothing, and you'll see that it pops up. There it is. You'll see that the heading text is a little bit bigger now that it has a different font. So we are going to scroll down to the heading text size, and we're going to reduce that size. Depending on whatever font was in there as a placeholder and the one that you purchased, it may be bigger or smaller. You can adjust the size there to do what looks good. It's going to be up to you, and also keep in mind readability, and that heading fonts should be something that grabs your attention. So heading fonts should almost always be bigger than the body font. So we are going to next change the heading text color. So pull up that branding palette, and I am going to change it to this carbon color here. The hex code can be found right below it. There's also an RGB code. You can choose to use the RGB if you're familiar with how to do that. I like to use the hex because it's just easier. It's less to remember and less to put in. So go ahead and write down or grab that font color. It's 363635 for this palette. It's going to be whichever one you choose from your particular branding palette. And I'm going to go ahead and change that out to the carbon color. You'll see it didn't really change that much because what was already in there was a black, dark gray type color. But that's the one that I chose for this. So now that it looks good, you can also change the header letter spacing, which is the space between the letters. I'm going to reduce that size. You can alternatively go up. You don't want to put too much space between the letters, just something that looks good and is still readable. And then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to click that green checkbox, and I am going to also customize this subheading area that's right below it. This area is going to talk about your business. It's going to give a quick synopsis of what you're all about or what your business offers. You want it to be attention grabbing as well, and it's something that is going to help keep the visitors on your site and tell the person about your business in one, maybe two simple sentences. For me, I really believe that less is more. I'm very big on minimalism when it comes to websites because I don't like to read too much. So just keep that in mind when you are working on your website, that less is more when it comes to reading headlines and subheadings. So I'm going to go ahead and change out that text to say this is the best business in the area. So when I've put that text in, you'll see that when you click on it, it is paragraph text. I am going to click over to the design button to change the font and the font color. We're not going to go down to heading text because this is body or paragraph text. There is a different area for that here. We're going to click on the text drop down. We're going to drop it down. The text font is currently Josephine Sands, and we are going to change it over to the branding palette body text font, which is called Roboto, and it's thin. So we're going to go ahead and type that in, and it will pull it up for you. See that there are different types. Feel free to grab a different font if you think it looks good, and it's up to your discretion. Go ahead and click on Roboto or whichever font it is that's on your palette. And font weight, this is where that thin, light, regular, bold, etc. comes in. I have it set to Roboto thin, but you see that it isn't very readable for this background color. It will be up to you to use your discretion on what looks best for your site visitors and for your brand, but always keep in mind readability. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Roboto Light. It's still light, it's still thin, but it is way more readable. So we're going to go with that. You can change the font style. You can do all caps, you can do drop caps, you can do underline, you can do whatever you want, whatever you think looks good for your website. This is yours to customize and play around with. And then we're going to go to the text color, that dropper here. We are going to change out that color. I'm going to go ahead and keep it, since it's kind of a monochromatic type layout and design, I'm going to go with the carbon again. So I'm going to change out that hex code to the carbon, and didn't change it by much again because of what was already there. I'm going to click that green button. Oh, actually, you can change the text size again by scrolling down below the color and adjusting the text size. In another later video, I will show you how to adjust the text size for the mobile devices and tablets. So just if you need to know how to do that, just go ahead and click on over to the video that is labeled mobile text sizing, and I will show you there how to adjust the text sizes for mobile devices. So once you've adjusted the font text size and spacing and all of that, go ahead and scroll down and click that green arrow button to save the changes. So the next thing we're going to be going over is how to change the header button. So go ahead and head over to that video titled Changing the Header Button, and we'll get started on that.